I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this. My name's Mike, and I've been married to Lisa for about 8 years now. We had a pretty decent life, steady jobs, a cozy house, and a lot of shared routines. At the start, everything seemed fine, even good. Lisa was a bit bitchy sometimes, but I always chalked it up to her being stressed or tired. Honestly, I tried not to let her mood swings get to me. I figured everyone has their bad days. But then about 6 months ago, things started to shift. Little signs, really. She became more distant, secretive about her phone. She'd hide her screen whenever I walked into the room, which wasn't like her. I'd catch her deleting messages or hurriedly closing apps on her tablet. At first, I brushed it off. Maybe she was just tired or had something she didn't want to share. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I even caught her lying once about going out with friends when I knew she had no plans. She'd always been terrible at hiding her guilt. Then came the real clue. One night, I was working late on a project in the living room, and I noticed her phone sitting on the table with a strange notification. It was a text from someone named Chris, and the message was just a string of emojis and a suggestive comment about meeting up. I stared at it for a second, heart pounding, trying to register what I'd just seen. But Lisa came back into the room fast, so I quickly closed the message and pretended I hadn't seen anything. Still, I kept that notification in my head. Over the next few weeks, I kept noticing small things. Her phone started buzzing more often during the day, and she'd slip away to take a call or answer an email. She kept telling me she was just busy with work, but I could tell she was hiding something. Then came the real bombshell. One afternoon, I was at the grocery store and I spotted her. Well, not her exactly, but her and a guy I'd never seen before, coming out of a coffee shop together. They looked way too comfortable, laughing and touching each other in ways that made my stomach turn. My mind raced. Who was this guy? Why was she with him? I couldn't believe what I was seeing. That night, I started digging through her stuff when she was out. I found some receipts in her purse that linked to a resource efficiency coordinator named Mark, someone she'd been working with at her company. I remember reading about her obsession with the company's sustainability analytics, how they were tracking household energy and water use to optimize for two people instead of our actual household size. It was part of some new initiative, something about reducing resource consumption, which I thought was good on paper. But now, knowing she was cheating on me, it felt like a betrayal on another level. She'd been sneaking around, lying about her meetings and secretly working with Mark, the guy from the coffee shop. Here's the thing. She's always been a bitchy woman, quick to lie and gaslight whenever I questioned something. She told me the receipts were just for the sustainability project and that I was overthinking. She blamed me for being paranoid, saying I was jealous and insecure. But I knew better. I saw her pattern of lies, the secret calls, the hidden messages. I started to realize that her infidelity wasn't just about sex, it was about control, deception, and outright betrayal. She'd been lying from the start, pretending she was working late when she was out with this guy. I felt a mix of anger, sadness, and this deep, gnawing sense that my entire marriage might be a lie. I needed to confront her, but I also wanted to know how deep this went. I couldn't just ignore it anymore. So I waited until she was out one evening, then I went into her phone, her email, even her social media. I downloaded her messages, her pictures, everything. When she came back, I was ready. She looked at me with that usual bitchy sneer, trying to act like nothing was wrong, like I was just imagining things. But I had the evidence laid out in front of me. I confronted her then and there. Told her I knew she was cheating, that I saw the messages, the receipts, the sneaking around. Her reaction. She called me crazy, said I was imagining things again, and that I was just jealous because she was better than me. That's typical Lisa, blame shifting, denial, and a lot of bullshit. Honestly, it hit me like a punch in the gut. The woman I loved, the woman I married, was lying to my face, messing around with some guy while pretending everything was fine. I've never felt so betrayed in my life. The pain was sharp, but beneath it all was this awful, simmering anger. I wasn't just hurt. I was furious that she thought she could get away with it, that she could lie and cheat and still keep her facade intact. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the moments, trying to understand how she could be so manipulative, so cold. And as I sat there, the decision started to form. I was going to make her pay for this. I wasn't going to let her get away with it, not without some kind of retribution. But I didn't tell her what I was planning yet. I wanted to see how far she'd go, how much she'd keep hiding, and most importantly, I was trying to find the best way to use this against her. That's when I started to plan my revenge. What would be the most effective way to make her regret what she'd done? How can you really hurt someone who's already broken your trust? I didn't have all the answers yet, but I knew this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. And that's where I am now, waiting, watching, planning. Because if she thought she could cheat and lie her way out of it, she was dead wrong. After that confrontation, I knew I had to be smart. Lisa was the kind of woman who'd spin any story she wanted, so I had to gather proof that she couldn't deny. I started watching her more carefully, keeping track of her movements, her phone, her online activity. I also decided to dig deeper into her connection with Mark, the resource efficiency guy. It wasn't just about catching her in the act anymore. I wanted to understand her motives, her methods, and how far she'd go to keep this secret. One night, I managed to install a keylogger on her laptop. Not proud of that, but after she brushed off my questions about her late nights and secret texts, I felt I had no choice. I wanted to see what she was hiding. Over the next few days, I watched her exchanges with Mark. They were frequent, and the messages were pretty revealing. Flirty comments, talk about meeting up, plans for working late that I never knew about. I even found some explicit messages, which confirmed what I'd suspected. She was having sex with him. The fact that it was more than just emotional betrayal hit me hard. I felt like my whole world was crumbling. The most shocking discovery was the timing of her visits to the coffee shop. According to the messages, she'd been meeting Mark during the hours I was working late or out with friends. She'd even lied about her whereabouts, claiming she was at her parents' house or running errands. I started to piece it all together. Her lying, sneaking out, manipulating me into thinking everything was normal. It was all carefully calculated. She knew I was suspicious but thought she could keep it hidden forever. That's what pissed me off the most, her arrogance, thinking she could cheat and get away with it. I also realized she'd been using the household's water and energy consumption data, which she had access to because of her work with the sustainability project, to hide her activities. She'd been reducing our resource use deliberately, probably to avoid suspicion or because she was distracted with her affair. Analytics showed a sharp dip in our household's usual consumption patterns, patterns that only made sense if she was trying to cover her tracks. I couldn't believe she was so brazen, so reckless. She was cheating on me and using our household data as her secret weapon against me. That's when I decided I'd had enough. I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. I had solid evidence now, and more importantly, I had her pattern, her lies, her secrets. I knew I needed to confront her again, but this time with a plan. I thought about catching her in the act, maybe setting a trap. But I also knew she'd deny everything, so I had to be more strategic. I wanted her to see that I wasn't an idiot, that I'd uncovered her game. I needed her to feel the full weight of what she'd done, how she'd betrayed not just me but our entire life together. So I started planning my next move. I rigged up a hidden camera in the house, pointed at the front door and her usual hiding spots. I wanted proof that she was sneaking out to meet Mark. I wanted her to see that I was watching her. I also decided to subtly manipulate her, maybe leave some clues around, things that would make her nervous, force her to slip up. I couldn't just attack her outright. I needed her to admit, to confess, to understand what she'd lost. The thought of her cheating on me with some guy who knew nothing about our life made me sick, but I refused to be a pushover. If she thought she could get away with this, she was dead wrong. Meanwhile, I felt a strange mixture of sadness and rage. I'd always believed in loyalty, in marriage as a partnership. Now I saw her for what she really was, a liar, a manipulator, someone who'd thrown everything away for some quick sex and some misguided thrill with Mark. Part of me wanted to scream, to break everything, but I knew that wouldn't help. I had to be colder, more calculated. Revenge wasn't about destruction. It was about making her feel the pain she'd caused me, about making her see that her actions had consequences. I kept reminding myself that I wasn't just fighting for my marriage anymore. I was fighting for my dignity. I refused to be the fool who got played. I also know that I need to protect myself emotionally, be ready for whatever she throws at me next, because I can't trust her anymore. She's lost that right. All I want now is to get through this, to figure out what's next, and to make sure she understands that her lies have consequences. If she thought she could cheat and then walk away scot-free, she was wrong. I was going to make sure she paid a price, one way or another. The more I uncovered, the angrier I got. Every new piece of evidence painted a clearer picture of how manipulative Lisa had become. She was good at hiding things, so smooth with her lies, so convincing when she'd blame me or lash out that I almost questioned my own judgment. But I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. I had enough now to turn this around, to make her realize she'd crossed a line she couldn't come back from. I started to set up my plan for the confrontation. Not just a blow-up, but something calculated. I needed her to slip in a way that I could catch her red-handed. I wanted her to know that I knew everything, her secret meetings, her lies, her betrayal. So I began leaving subtle clues around the house. An extra pair of shoes she'd forgotten to hide, a lipstick stain on a coffee cup she swore she hadn't touched, even a carefully planted message on her work email that I knew she'd see. I didn't want to catch her in just one slip-up. I wanted her to realize she was cornered, that she could no longer hide her affair. One evening, I invited her for a talk. I told her I'd had enough of the secrets and that I knew what she was doing. Her face twisted into that familiar bitchy sneer, like she thought she could manipulate her way out of this. But I held up the evidence, screenshots of her texts with Mark, the receipts, the analytics data showing her resource use dip, trying to cover her tracks. Her reaction. She called me paranoid, accused me of stalking her. She told me I was crazy for thinking she'd cheat. She looked angry, defiant, and yet I could see the flicker of fear in her eyes. She knew she'd been caught, but she didn't want to admit it. That's when she started lying even more, saying she was working late for important projects. That Mark was just her colleague, that she wasn't having sex with him. She even tried to spin it as a misunderstanding, claiming I was jealous because I didn't understand her work. That was laughable. I knew the truth. I could see her guilt, her desperation. And I knew this wasn't going to end with just words. She was cornered now, and I was just waiting for her to crack. But she didn't just crack that night. No, she doubled down. She started accusing me of spying, of invading her privacy, of being insecure. She called me controlling, said I was ruining our marriage. That's classic Lisa, blame shifting, deflecting, trying to turn the tables. But I wasn't falling for it. This wasn't about insecurity, it was about betrayal. I could feel the rage simmering beneath my skin, but I kept my face calm. I needed her to see that I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. Then out of nowhere, she threw a curveball. She said, "You're overreacting. It's just sex, Mike. It doesn't mean anything. We're still married. We're still a team." That's when I realized she was still trying to lie her way out, still trying to convince herself she was innocent. But I was done with her lies. I told her, "You think this is just about sex? No, it's about respect. And you've shown me for months now that you don't respect me or this marriage." Her face twisted in anger, her voice getting bitchier, trying to belittle me, insult me, make me doubt myself. But I stayed firm. I knew this wasn't the end. That night I went to bed feeling a strange mix of relief and emptiness. The truth was out, but I knew the real battle was just beginning. Lisa was a liar, a manipulator. She thought she could cheat and get away with it, but I wasn't going to let her. Now, I had the evidence, and I was going to use it. I wasn't sure how or when, but I was determined to make her see that her actions had consequences. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew I couldn't keep living like this, living with her lies and her betrayal. I deserved better, and this was the start of whatever came next. In the days that followed that night, I felt like I was walking a tightrope. Part of me wanted to confront Lisa again, to demand she come clean and admit everything. But another part knew I had to be careful. She was the kind of woman who'd spin stories, manipulate, and deny until she was blue in the face. I had to be strategic. That's when I decided I'd leverage the evidence I had collected, not just to confront her, but to actually make her realize she was in deeper trouble than she thought. I started laying out the plan in my head. I set up a meeting with a lawyer just to understand my options, what I could do if I decided to end things, or if I wanted to push for some kind of legal action. I also contacted a private investigator friend just to confirm my suspicions about her meetings with Mark. Turns out my instincts were right. That coffee shop rendezvous wasn't just innocent catch-ups. It was full-blown cheating, plain and simple. I also found out that Mark had a wife and kids, which made her betrayal even nastier. I couldn't believe she was cheating with someone who had so much to lose just like me. Meanwhile, Lisa kept up her act. She was bitchy, defensive, and still lying. She'd call me paranoid, accuse me of invading her privacy. She even tried to turn the tables and guilt me, saying I was the one ruining what we had. I could see through her bullshit. I knew her game now. She was trying to gaslight me into thinking I was overreacting, like I was the crazy one. But I had enough now. I had the proof and I was ready to use it. One day, I decided to play her game a little differently. I told her I was considering going to couples therapy, that maybe we could work through this. I knew she'd see that as weakness, an opportunity to deny everything. But in truth, I wasn't interested in saving the marriage anymore. Not when I had all this evidence and her own words betraying her. I just wanted her to see that I wasn't weak, that I was serious. I wanted her to realize she'd pushed me to the edge. She responded with her usual bitchy attitude, rolling her eyes, calling me dramatic. She claimed she loved me, but needed her space, that this was all just a big misunderstanding. I could tell she was trying to manipulate the situation, trying to make me doubt my own judgment, but I knew better now. Her lies were transparent. I had the receipts, the texts, the analytics, everything. And I made sure she saw them, even if she pretended not to care. What really hurt was her refusal to take responsibility. Instead, she lashed out, called me controlling and insecure. She said I was making a huge fuss over nothing, that I was just jealous because I wasn't enough. That was her way of trying to gaslight me into thinking I was the problem. But I wasn't falling for it. I'd already seen too much. I knew she'd been sneaking around, lying to my face, and now she was trying to make me doubt myself. That made me angrier than anything else. The emotional toll was intense. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and furious all at once. I'd loved her so much, trusted her, built a life with her, and now I saw her for what she really was, a liar and a cheat. Every night I'd lie awake, replaying the moments, wondering how. I missed the signs, how I let myself be blindsided, but I also knew I had to keep my cool. I couldn't let her see me break down, not yet. Instead, I kept gathering my strength, preparing for whatever was coming next. The worst part was the sense of helplessness. I knew I couldn't just leave her, at least not yet. I needed a plan. I needed to make sure I had everything in order, finances, a place to go if I decided to leave. I also reached out to some friends who had gone through similar situations just to get advice. Their stories made me realize one thing: I wasn't alone in this. Plenty of men had been betrayed and they came out stronger on the other side. That gave me a little hope, a reason to keep going. So here I am, waiting for the next move. Lisa keeps up her act, but I see her cracks. She's starting to get nervous, I think. She knows I've got all the cards now, and I plan to use every bit of them. My goal is simple. I want her to understand that she's lost my trust, that she can't lie her way out of this, and that her cheating has consequences. I don't know exactly how I'll do it yet, but I know I won't let her walk away without feeling the weight of her betrayal, because she thought she could cheat, lie, and manipulate her way out of this. Well, she's about to find out what real consequences look like. Over the next few days, I kept my plans tight. I made sure everything was in place, evidence organized, contacts lined up, a clear head. I knew Lisa's attitude was shifting. She was getting more aggressive, more bitchy, trying to deny everything outright, but I could see her cracks widening. She was starting to realize that I wasn't going to back down, that I knew her game now. That realization was the best weapon I had, her own fear and guilt. One afternoon, I decided it was time for the final confrontation. I told her I had something important to discuss, that she needed to sit down with me. She looked suspicious but played her usual bitchy, dismissive attitude. I sat her down in the living room, right where I'd laid out all the evidence. I didn't hold back. I laid everything Out screenshots of her texts with Mark, the analytics data, the receipts, the hidden camera footage. I saw her eyes darting around, trying to deny, trying to lie her way out again. But I pressed on, showing her everything, her reaction. She went from defiant to panic-stricken in seconds. Her face turned red, her voice cracked. She tried to gaslight me, saying I was mistaken, that it was all just a misunderstanding, that she loved me and it meant nothing. But I cut her off. I told her she'd been caught red-handed, that I knew she'd been cheating on me with Mark for months. I told her how much her lies had hurt me, how betrayed I felt. Her usual bitchy attitude gave way to silence. She had nothing left to say. The guilt was written all over her face. She started crying, fake, I'm pretty sure. She tried to look innocent, to plead her case, saying I was overreacting, that she was sorry, but I wasn't buying it. I could see right through her tears, saw how panicked she was. I knew she'd never admit the full truth, but I didn't need her to anymore. I had enough evidence. I wanted her. Understand that her actions had consequences, serious consequences. At that moment, I realized I'd crossed a line. I was no longer just hurt or angry. I was angry enough to cut her out completely. But part of me still felt conflicted. I'd loved her once. I'd built a life with her. That love was still lodged somewhere deep inside, fighting the betrayal I'd uncovered. I had to decide what I was going to do next. She kept trying to manipulate, trying to guilt-trip me into staying. But I knew I couldn't trust her anymore. Her words, her tears, they all felt empty now. I told her that I needed time to think, that I was done with her lies and manipulation. I packed a bag for myself, knowing I'd be staying elsewhere for a while. The house, once full of our shared memories, felt cold and empty. I was trying to hold it together, but inside I was a mess. Part of me wanted to break down, scream, rage at her for what she'd done, but I held myself back. I knew that if I gave in to that emotion, I'd lose control. I spent the next few days trying to figure out what I truly wanted. My mind kept going in circles. Do I leave her? Do I try to save what's left? Or do I cut her out entirely and start over? Every time I looked at her, I saw the betrayal in her eyes, the guilt she tried to hide behind her bitchy attitude. I knew she'd never be the same. That's what hurt the most, that the woman I loved was gone, replaced by someone who only cared about herself and her lies. But I also realized something important. I wasn't just hurt, I was angry enough to take control. I had all the power now, even if she didn't realize it yet. I decided I'd give her one last chance to come clean, to tell the truth fully, but I wasn't holding my breath. I knew her type. She'd probably try to manipulate her way out again, but I'd be ready for her, because no matter what, I was done being the fool. This betrayal had opened my eyes. I was going to make her face the music, one way or another. The whole time I was doing this, I couldn't help but feel a strange sense of emptiness. I'd lost a lot: trust, respect, the woman I thought I knew, but I also gained clarity. I saw her for exactly what she was, a liar and a cheat, and I knew I had to protect myself from her next move. Whatever she had planned, I was prepared to fight back. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about reclaiming my life, my dignity. And I promised myself I'd come out of this stronger, no matter how hard it was. In the end, I made my decision. I couldn't stay with someone who lied, cheated, and thought she could manipulate her way out of everything. That final confrontation was the turning point. I told Lisa I was done pretending and done playing her game. I packed my things, left the house, and told her that I wanted a divorce. Her reaction was as expected. She yelled, called me controlling and jealous, and tried to convince me that I was overreacting. But I saw through her bullshit now. I knew her real face was the one I hadn't seen before, and I didn't want any part of it anymore. The process wasn't easy. I had to go through the legal steps, figure out finances, and deal with the emotional fallout. It hurt much more than I thought it would. I kept replaying the betrayal, the lies, the deception. I'd loved her, trusted her, built a life with her. But that trust was shattered in an instant. Still, I knew I had to keep moving forward. I had to rebuild my life piece by piece. What I learned from all this is simple but profound. Never ignore the signs. People can hide their true selves for a long time, but eventually the truth comes out. And when it does, it's better to face it head-on than to keep pretending everything's okay. I also realized that revenge isn't about breaking someone down. It's about standing up for yourself, and making them see that their actions have consequences. Lisa thought she could cheat and lie her way out of this, but I made sure she understood she'd lost everything she thought was secure: our marriage, my trust, my respect. Most importantly, I learned that I'm stronger than I thought. Betrayal cuts deep, but it also forces you to confront your own strength. I'm now focused on healing, moving on, and never letting someone like her hurt me again. I've started over, found a new apartment, and begun therapy to process everything. The pain still lingers, but it's getting better. I know I'll be okay, even if I don't have her anymore. Looking back, I'm glad I uncovered the truth. It's better to face the pain now than live in denial. I trust myself more, and I'll be cautious about who I let into my life moving forward. And honestly, I hope she feels the weight of what she lost, because she threw away a good marriage for some fleeting pleasure with Mark. I can't help but think that someday she'll realize how much she fucked up. But I also know I deserve better. I deserve honesty, respect, and someone who values me. That's what I'm focusing on now, building that life for myself. It's not easy, and I still have moments of anger and sadness, but I refuse to let her define me. I'm moving on, stronger and wiser, and I won't let betrayal break me. That's the final lesson I'll take from this whole nightmare. Trust is hard-earned, and it's gone now. But one thing, for sure, I'll never let someone betray me that way again.